Hello YouTube, Dan Kepler here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my handles and handle evolution and some of the things that have influenced the different changes I've made on my handles and the progression of basically the shape and the function of my handles. Now, in front of you I have a couple retired Blade Sports choppers that I have. I mean, these are some practice blades now, but they used to be blades I competed with. They've been reground a couple times, and one of the things I do with my competition blades is I grind them very thin for their cutting edge, and when I practice with them, if I hit some really hard materials or actually mess up my technique, they can ripple the edge. And this is an example. This edge, you can see, has some different some wobblies there that's hit some pretty hard knots and everything, and since the edge is so thin, they've just kind of rippled, but they work good for practice blades. I've actually broken the tip off of this one. I encountered a steel beam while practicing at a friend's house. He had a steel beam too close to one of the cutting stations, and I hit it and messed up the tip. But back to the handles. So these handles here are made from horse stall mat, and it's a great material for blade sports. It's a great material for knives. The one downside with doing it for a basic utility knife is that it requires a little bit of upkeep. I mean, the glues, they glue them together, and sometimes the interface between the metal and the glue can come apart a little bit, and you got to get a little glue down there and get it re-glued in that aspect. But as far as the handles go, some of the shape is due to function, and a little bit of the shape is due to the Blade Sports size restriction of the blades. So I usually do my butt ends a little bit differently than this, but since I have to measure the knife from the butt end, and I'm allowed 10 inches for the blade, it basically makes you change some of the handle shape. I would actually extend this part out a little further if I had the option to. So here's my philosophy with handles. The biggest thing is that they work. One of the things I learned from different competitors at Blade Sports as I was new to it was basically the way you tell if a handle is good is that you don't realize you're using, you don't remember using the handle of the knife. If you notice something about a handle, it's usually because it doesn't fit right, or it's doing something that it's not supposed to. Now, I have a background in basically human biomechanics. I have a degree in exercise physiology. I worked in strength and conditioning and different sports. I got an athletic training minor, and I'm also getting my doctorate in chiropractic medicine right now. And so I've spent a lot of time studying and understanding how the human body works, and an approach to help people and myself when I compete utilize their biomechanics to their advantage. And one of the things about handles is that there's a couple things that I see go on with handles that don't work for me. So I've come up with some other things based off what I've seen from other competitors, other people that make handles in the knife making community, and just developed what's felt good on myself. The most important thing, well, the first thing that you'll notice about my knives is that I have what is known as a drop handle. That means that the angle from the blade and here basically drops. And what that does is when you hold the knife, it allows you to keep your wrist when you're chopping with the knife in a more anatomically secure position. So this position is stronger than this position. And if I can maintain more in this position here while I'm chopping, then it's actually stronger for my wrist just biomechanically. And I find personally that I can just get more power generated to the blade, and for competition and for just chopping purposes, that's a good thing. So that's why I do the dropped handle. Now, a couple things about my knives. The handles are kind of big and beefy for my Blade Sports knives, and for some of my other knives too. You can see right up here is Sasquatch that I've featured in a few videos recently. Just did some chopping with it today, cleaned it up a little bit. Still can't get the aluminum off of it, and the handles here, you'll see quite a bit of contour, a lot like a Coke bottle in a sense. And there's a reason for each one of these curvatures and how they fit with the hand. Now, this is pretty drastic changes, but for me, when I compete, this really accommodates what I need it to do. One of the things that we are innately born, or that we have the ability to do, is look at something and take our index finger and touch it. And just like, so I wanted to touch that, I touched that. And the way I look at a knife is, if you have a knife and you understand you have a relationship between different parts of the handle and different parts of your hand that are very consistent, then you can use that blade just as an extension of your finger. So if you want to touch something, you just reach out and touch it, because you know where this is in relation to this, just as you know where this finger is in relation to your arm, to your elbow, to your shoulder. And you know, your brain tells you all those things based off, it's called kinesthetic awareness, or proprioception. And if you want a lesson in that stuff, we could make another video. The other thing, so that's one of the reasons why I have certain surfaces, like right here and right here, where my hand consistently falls where I want it to. And that when I have this knuckle right here, at that point right there, and the other knuckle reaches that point right there, I know exactly, you know, where the blade angle, or the plane of the blade is, in conjunction with my wrist and my hand. And I can actually generate more power into that region right there when I'm chopping. So there's that aspect. The other aspect is that I have this relief back here, and that relief is for this part of my hand. Now, what this allows, what I was finding is, when I didn't relieve this back here, I was chopping, and I was having the blade, it was steering, I would chop, and it would steer this way. It would steer like into my knuckle here. And so when I'd chop, it'd make me scoop stuff. And what I was finding is that this space right here was pushing the knife away from my hand more like that. So then when I gave it a recess, and I gave it a place to nest, it could form this straight line that would go right in there, and it would line straight up with, you know, this plane of my wrist right here. And that allowed my my striking when I was chopping to become more accurate, in a sense. Trying to think of other things that are really important that I do with the handle. The other thing is that you'll see a little contour there and a little contour there, and that's for the top here. But one thing when I notice one thing that's really interesting with this handle is, as you rotate the blade forward, it basically seats this part into the back of your hand, as well as secures itself into your fingers right there, and then it also secures right here. So you can actually strike material and continue to drive through, and even as you're driving hard, these contact points, they work with each other to snuggle themselves further into your hand. Now the overall feeling of the handle is really important. I mentioned earlier about the handle that you want it, that you're chopping and you're using a knife, and you want it that you just don't notice the handle. You're just able to do the work that you need to do. If you're noticing the handle, it's because some part of the handle is interacting with some part of your hand, and it's doing that with more pressure than the rest of your hand. The idea of a good handle is to distribute as much of the force that your hand generates to the handle as evenly as possible. Throughout our hand, we have a lot of neurons, or just, we have a lot of nerve endings. And these nerve endings, we have different kinds, but they all send signals back to our central nervous system and tell us what's going on. And then subconsciously, we actually react to that even before our brain has a way to think about it. Those are different types of reactions that we have. And if I have a handle that is uncomfortable or pushing too hard on something, it'll actually inhibit my ability to grab the handle. And just subconsciously, if you were to take, a dumbbell and have a very small piece of wire and pick up that, like a 10-pound dumbbell, that small piece of wire would put, connected to it, that small piece of wire would put a lot of force, basically pounds per square inch, on a small part of your body. And that weight would feel heavier than 10 pounds. But yet if you give that same weight a broad handle, it evenly or more evenly distributes the weight throughout your hand. And you don't even notice that you're really holding that weight. So applying that to a handle, I find that having a little bit larger handle, that a little more robust, and having it nestle in evenly with different contours of the hand gives you that distribution of weight, and that's why that allows me to generate more power into the knife and not worry about security, not feel like I'm going to lose grip. The other thing is that I see some handles that are too small, and you have to hold on to them rigidly, and that causes fatigue as well when chopping or doing heavy cutting. And so that's a little bit about how I work with my some of the things I do with my handles. You can see this knife that I just finished up and have made a few videos about. It has much of these characteristics to a lesser degree, but there is still a bit of hourglass shaping. There still is a recess here, as well as a progressive one. Let me get this lanyard out of the way. Progressive one that narrows in here, then widens out. This wider part is a great point of rotation, but then during rotation, allowing this contour here to stay fairly broad allows you to interact this first finger, and you can have this flat spot here that tells you where you're planning on being, and then as the knife rotates, it nestles itself into this compartment right here, as well as your thumb. This is called your thenar compartment. This is your hypothenar compartment. But your thumb, the pad of your thumb, will nestle right into there, and as you rotate it, it secures itself. This handle is a little bit bigger. It's closer to 6 inches. These are right at 5 inches because the blade sports requirement. So, but for a using knife, I like to give the handle more options. It has a rear grip and a forward grip and a neutral grip, and you can basically change your grip position throughout those. Personally, my preference is a hidden tang. I like the knives this way, but I prefer not having this interface that much between the metal, the TerraTough material, and then the metal again. I prefer to do a hidden tang that I can just put through the TerraTough. And the TerraTough is strong material that I don't worry about it not being strong enough. Let's see, what else can I explain or talk about? That pretty much sums it up. And for me, it's just been experience in using my knives and competing with my knives, and finding limitations when I'm competing that my handle wasn't up to snuff at times, and so I had to modify it and create understand more about what makes a handle work for me. And I found that that experience has been able to carry over into knives that I've made for people, and I've gotten good report back of how handles have worked for them, and so on. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me, and thanks for watching.